Welcome, everyone. I'm Dick Deming, Medical Director at Mercy Cancer Center and the founder of Above and Beyond Cancer. Welcome to our weekly cancer education series. It's brought to you in part by a grant from the Iowa Oncology Society. Our topic tonight is cancer in young adults, and our guest is Becca Mataloni. Welcome, Becky.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to learn Becky's story, and Becky is a marketing public relations specialist at ITA. We'll learn a little bit more about ITA as well. But let's get to know you first. Where are you from originally?
Yeah, I'm from a small town in northwest Iowa, Sibley, Iowa. It's like a town of 2,500, kind of by Okoboji.
Did you go to high school in Sibley?
Sibley, Ocheyedan.
And so that's two towns that come together?
Yep.
And how many were in your graduating class?
I think it was like 88, but that was the biggest class. The next biggest was like 65.
Okay.
So we were kind of the abnormal ones.
And out of your class of 88, what was your personal claim to fame?
Oh, gosh.
At Sibley High?
I played saxophone, so I made all-state band.
Oh,
I don't know.
Right. And were you in like jazz band too? Okay.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite number to play in jazz band?
Oh my gosh, you're making me go way back.
Did you
I
have to
no
like
idea.
when you compete to be part of all-state band? Do you have to like audition or play a solo piece?
Yeah, so for all-state band, you had to learn all the different scales, and then they provide different etudes. And the etudes, you know what they are, you know like what excerpt it is, but you have to draw from you have to draw what scale you have to play in the room.
You just draw it out of a hat, you mean? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, then that's what you have to play.
Okay, so you're all-state. And then what did you do the year you graduated from high school?
The year I graduated high school?
Yeah.
Like after that?
Yeah, that fall.
Oh, that fall. I went to Drake.
You went to Drake?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And when you started at Drake, what was your very first declared major?
My first major was actually broadcast journalism. I thought I wanted to be like an on-field reporter for the NFL, specifically the Green Bay Packers.
Wow.
But then I realized that you have to be able to like speak off the cuff, and I can't do that. So I was like, I switched it to news, internet,
I see.
journalism.
You wanted to have an hour to write the story
Yes,
about
yeah.
what's happening during the game, and then So you switched to.
It was called news, internet, journalism at the time, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, really just like the copywriting portion of it.
And what was your favorite class at Drake?
I had two. One was with Professor Tapscott, and he told us to always like to check your accuracy of your sources. And he said, even check if your mom loves you. Like that's how critical it is to check for accuracy. So I loved him. He was really funny. And then my advisor was Jill Van Wyk, and she was fantastic. So I liked her editing class.
Okay. And did you do a lot of writing? Were you like on the campus newspaper? And did you do any internships during college with media?
Yeah, so I worked for the Times Delphic, was the student newspaper. I had a column with them and then wrote like different feature stories. And then I had a couple internships in college. One was with the Iowa Coalition Against Sexual Assault. I was a communications intern for them, and then Holmes Murphy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And then what was your first job out of college?
My first job was with Holmes Murphy, so I transitioned from intern to full-time position in their marketing department.
And tell us about your current position.
Yeah, my current position, I'm the senior manager of our brand creative team at ITA Group, and so I oversee a team of writers and designers.
And brand creative team, tell me, what is that?
So we manage like ITA Group's global brand. So we do all the like things on our website, social media, ebooks, blog posts. We help with sales presentations and internal communications. Okay. So a whole variety of things.
Okay. And then obviously you're here because we're going to talk about cancer in young adults. And when did your cancer journey begin?
Yeah, so my cancer journey technically began exactly 2 years ago. on this day,
Today.
July 8th of
July 8th,
24 is when I got my diagnosis, but obviously was having symptoms prior to that.
And the symptoms you were having that led you to seek medical attention?
Yeah, I first started experiencing symptoms in 2019. I had a crackly voice every time I inhaled. So I'd go, and it would make this like type of sound. I have really bad allergies, and so I just chalked it up to that for a long time. And then finally, after enough convincing from family saying that's not normal, you should get it checked out, I got referred to a pulmonologist and was diagnosed with asthma, which I do have, but it wasn't the full story, of course. And then I still had that noise happening for years and tried all different inhalers and things, and it wasn't going away. And then I had pneumonia for the first time in December of 22 and got through that. And then I had pneumonia again in March of 24. And I went to the ER on March 8th of 24, got a X-ray, confirmed I had pneumonia, and then 3 days later I went back to the ER because I was coughing up so much blood. And at that appointment, they ordered a CT scan. And everyone knows this. You get your results sometimes before the doctor gets to tell you about it.
So you actually read the results in your patient portal?
Yes, yeah. And it said, I'm trying to remember the exact wording, but it said a 1.5 centimeter nodule, a mass cannot be excluded. And so I read that, and my boyfriend, now fiance at the time, was in the room with me, and I don't think I shared it with him because I was like, mass, like you just get like laser focused on that word. And I'm like, I'm just going to wait and see if the doctor says anything. And she didn't. And so then I was like, do I need to be worried about this mass that was listed on here? And she was like, oh no, that's really common with pneumonia. Everyone gets lung nodules and they'll go away as your pneumonia improves, which is true. But it was not true in my case.
Mm-hmm. And how old were you at this time?
In March of 24, I was 33.
Mm-hmm. So you were treated with antibiotics again.
Yeah, and then I still had pneumonia 2 months later. I started kind of improving and then got worse again in May of 24. So they ordered another chest x-ray, and then the radiologist who reviewed it at that time said, I recommend you get another CT scan to get that mass checked out since you've had pneumonia for 2 months. So then I had another CT scan in June, and then got referred to a pulmonologist, and then I met with Dr. Danielson on July 8th of 24. And leading up to that appointment, Ryan, my fiance, was adamant that he go to the appointment with me, and I kept brushing it off. I was like, it's just my asthma. Like, it's not a big deal. I have bad allergies, bad asthma. It's fine. Like, don't waste your time coming. And he was adamant about going, and so he did go, and I was very thankful for that because she walked in the room and she said, I'm just going to tell you, I'm 99% certain you have a cancerous carcinoid tumor, which is not what either of us were expecting to hear.
Mm-hmm. And then that was confirmed by a bronchoscopy?
Yeah, so that was on Monday, July 8th, and she said, you have a cancerous carcinoid tumor, which is a type of lung cancer. And she said, you're hearing lung cancer, but it's not like a lung cancer that you're used to hearing about. It's totally curable. You're going to be okay, but there's some things we have to do to fix it. And she said, I actually had looked at your charts and scans ahead of this, so my nurse is already ordering your biopsy for Wednesday. And I was like, oh, that seems really aggressive. Like, do I need to be really concerned about this? Like you said, it's totally curable, but a biopsy in 2 days seems like pretty serious. And she said it because it was a typical carcinoid tumor, they're slow growing. So I wouldn't necessarily have to act super quickly. But she said, once you hear those words, you want it out of your system. Like, you don't want to just mess around with it. So she's like, I figured you would just want to have that, which I
forward.
did. Yeah.
Plus, your tumor, the carcinoid tumor, was probably partially blocking the airway and was contributing to these recurrent pneumonias.
Yes, yeah. So thank you for bringing that up, because that was what was causing that crackly noise. Was the tumor was blocking my right airway, and then pneumonia is a side effect of that tumor.
And also some bleeding. Yeah.
Yeah. So she said I could wait and not do anything, but the symptoms would just continue to get worse. My pneumonia bouts would happen more frequently and be worse. I'd cough up more blood, and so I was like, yeah, let's do a biopsy.
So it sounds like that was a really informative conversation, reassuring, but you're still, she did say lung cancer. And so, and then the bronchoscopy confirmed that that's what the histology, the type of cancer it was.
Yep.
And then what was the treatment for your cancer?
Yeah, so she actually had recommended a new type of treatment that is light therapy that have been used to treat, I think she had said like more GI type of carcinoid tumors, and they were just now exploring that as a treatment option for carcinoid tumors in the lung. But I wanted just to get another opinion too and see what the surgery option would be like, because with the light therapy, it's not guaranteed that it can remove the entire tumor, and then you have to have surgery anyway to get the rest of it. So then she referred me to Iowa City, and I met with Dr. Perrick on August 7th of 24. And he kind of explained what the surgery would be like. He's had 0 recurrences in over 20 years of doing the surgery for carcinoid tumors, and that was all I needed to hear. And I said, I'm going to do the surgery. That's guaranteed. The thing with the surgery, though, what I wasn't quite expecting, I thought they could just go in and only remove the tumor, and they would have to remove 2/3 of my right lung.
So obviously it depends on the location and where the lobes come together. And so even before the surgery, he prepared you that you would have to have 2 of the 3 lobes of your right
Yes.
lung removed.
He said there's, you probably know the name of it better than I do. There's like a sleeve reduction surgery or something where they can try and save more of the lung. And so he had said he would try and do that. And I kind of held out that sliver of hope, like, oh, well, yeah, that's what he's going to be able to do. He's going to be able to save my whole lung, which is not the case, of course, because of the location of where it was. It was just too
close
to
to
do,
where
yeah.
the bronchus branches off to the upper lobe and the middle lobe. And
Yep. Yeah. So they removed my middle and lower lobes.
And that was done at the University of Iowa.
Yep.
And how long were you in the hospital?
I was in the hospital for 12 days. They had said, you're pretty young, you're otherwise healthy and active. You'll have the surgery on Friday, you'll probably be able to go home on Monday. And that was, again, not what happened. That was really tough mentally, emotionally, to be there for 12 days when you thought you'd be able to go home at 3. But I had so much fluid that needed to come out. So I had 2 chest tubes, an epidural and a catheter I had the epidural and catheter in for a week. And so I couldn't go home, obviously, with still having an epidural. And then they eventually replaced the 2 chest tubes with a pigtail chest tube. And I had to go home with that still in. Which I do not recommend to anyone. That was brutal.
So big surgery, big incision. I think you
Yeah,
described
it was about
it,
9 inches.
9-inch
Yeah,
incision.
from like top of my shoulder down across my ribs
Yeah, kind
into
of
my chest.
diagonally, sort of follows a rib, the contour of a rib. Quite painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really painful, which was part of why I think I had to stay in the hospital so long too, because I did not want to get up and moving for the first day or two. And I know once you get moving and stuff, that like kind of helps with the healing process. So they had to kind of force me out of bed. I was like, I'm comfortable here. I don't have as much pain here. I don't want to move.
I don't want to move.
Yeah.
What about when the breathing exercises?
Yeah. Oh,
Those
yeah.
were
The
pain.
breathing exercises, I had to do that every hour, I believe. And, you know, you have to get to certain numbers, and I was doing it wrong at first, I remember. And I was like, oh, well, I'm hitting the 2,000 mark already. Like, this is great. And they were like, no, you're supposed to do it this way. And then I was like, oh, I'm at like 500. Like, I'm not doing as well as what I thought.
Now, being in the hospital that long, I'm sure your final pathology report came back while you were in the hospital. And hopefully it wasn't you checking every hour your patient portal to get the results. Hopefully someone came in and had a conversation with you
Yes.
about what would have been good news, right?
Yeah, and Dr. Parrott came out, and my parents and Ryan were there for the surgery, and he came out right after the surgery and said, oh, it was wildly successful. We got everything, and Ryan said, you know, he heard wildly successful, and he was like, oh, that must mean he was able to save her whole lung. And he was like, oh, no, we had to remove the 2 lobes, but it was wildly successful because there's no more cancerous tumor in her lungs. So we were very grateful for that.
So pathology confirmed that it was a carcinoid tumor and that it was cleanly resected, clear margins. So that would mean no need for chemotherapy or
Right.
radiation therapy.
Yeah, and with
Yes.
the carcinoid tumor in the lung, they normally don't do radiation or chemotherapy, which I was really grateful for. It's just the surgery.
Just the surgery. But when we say just the
Yeah.
surgery, big surgery. So
Yeah.
so talk about, so great news in terms of, okay, tumor's out, clear, that pathology is great, prognosis, very unlikely it's going to come back. So really then it was starting to focus on rehabilitation.
Yeah, and I felt like, you know, because I had to go home with a chest tube for a week, and there were some different complications with that too. Like it got clogged within the first 24 hours, and we had to go to the ER here, and the ER we went to was not, they didn't have the right equipment to help with a pigtail chest tube. And so we were there for like 7 hours through the middle of the night. And then eventually they were like, you just have to go back to Iowa City. So we got like 90 minutes of sleep, drove to Iowa City, got it unclogged and figured out. And then they showed us how to work on it to like try and unclog it in the future. But they had told us when I went home, like if the chest tube gets clogged, that can be really bad because then obviously you're not getting the fluid out of your lungs. So that was the main concern and why we wanted to get it cleared quickly. But it ended up clogging like a couple more times. And so then we got it removed like a week later. They were like, you've had enough. It's in a pretty good spot. Yeah. So I felt like I didn't start recovery until it was like 3 weeks post-surgery, and I only had 6 weeks off of work.
Right. So when you're in the hospital, you got 2 chest tubes and a catheter and the IVs. You kind of can gauge progress by the number of tubes you have in you.
Yes.
As you start, take this tube out, take this tube out. So that was the final tube to be removed.
Yeah.
And so then rehabilitation started for sure. Did you have professional help with rehabilitation, respiratory therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, those sorts of services?
Yeah, I had physical therapy, and I went a couple times a week, and I was so thankful for that because I was really kind of babying where the incision site was, so much so that when I went to PT, he was like, did they have your arm in a sling? Like, what's wrong with your arm? And I was like, oh, I'm just constantly like protecting that. And so he really had to help me
Did you get
regain
a
range of
frozen
motion.
shoulder
And I
out of it?
didn't,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
But he did tell me, he's like, we've got to get working on that to avoid frozen shoulder. And then I still had to do the like breathing exercises where you breathe into that mechanism. And then really I just tried to walk around the house. I tried to walk outside, and I couldn't walk very far. It was like pretty good if I walked to our mailbox and back.
Right. So you're dealing with a couple of issues. One, just the pain of the surgery and regaining movement. But second, you're missing 2/3 of a lung. So
Yeah.
even totally healed, you don't have the lung capacity.
And that was like, it was hard physically. It was extremely hard mentally. I like kind of getting choked up. I'm a really active person. I love being outdoors. And it's hard in that moment to think about like what you might still be able to do. Because in that, there were so many days I would cry because I could only make it to the next house and back. Like I just felt like my progress wasn't going as fast. And I'm like, I'm never going to be able to ride my bike again. I'm never going to be able to go on hikes again. It just was, recovery was a lot slower than what I thought it was going to be. And that, like the physical stuff I can get through, it was the mental challenge that was super tough.
Yeah. Changing your life. Like, oh my gosh, I'll never have my previous life back again.
Yeah.
How long were you off of work?
I was only off for 6 weeks. And so when I went back, I wish I would have had a little bit longer because when I went back, I couldn't even carry like my laptop bag. I had to have someone come carry it for me so I could even walk into our office. And I couldn't go up the stairs. I had to stop after 8 steps and just stand at the landing and take a few breaths and then, go up a couple more stairs in our new building. And that was emotional. Like I can't even go up like 15 steps right now. So it was just a lot of that type of like I don't know how to explain it, but just like trying to overcome the emotional aspect of it. And then going back to work too was difficult because you realize, not in like a selfish way, but it's like life has continued. I've gone through all these things, but life has still gone on for everyone else, and they just kind of expect you to like jump right back into things. And so often I had to be like, can you just give me a minute? Like, this is a lot for me to just like go right back into 5 meetings on my first day after, everything I've been through. And people were very kind, and my coworkers were super supportive. They helped us out a lot in the surgery, but it's just like, unless you've been through it, you don't really think about what that like coming back process is like.
Yeah. And I'm sure you're feeling sort of torn between wanting to just dig in and get back, but this sense of not only the pain, but the shortness of breath that is keeping you. And obviously somebody was doing your job while you were gone, but there probably were certain things that were sort of put off to the side waiting for you to get back.
Yeah, and then they're like excited. They're like, "Oh, you're back!"
You're
like
back.
now we have all these things. I'm like, "That's great, thank you."
Yeah. So we first met when you applied to do something pretty audacious. So maybe talk about part of your recovery as it relates to physical activity.
Yeah. So I applied to go on Above and Beyond Cancer's transformational journey to Patagonia. You had announced that you were going to Patagonia in that fall. And I remember running to Ryan and I was like, oh my gosh, Ryan, like Above and Beyond Cancer is going to Patagonia. I feel like I have to apply for this. Meanwhile, I couldn't even walk around the block. Like, I don't know why in my mind I was like...
Yes, and going to Patagonia is not like sitting on a beach at a Four Seasons resort. It was a camping, trekking trip of, what, about
hiked
50
miles? Yeah.
Yes, on the mountainous paths.
Yep.
Much more than 15 feet of elevation gain.
Yeah. So I don't know why in my mind I thought I could and should apply for it, but I did.
So had you already been working out with Above and Beyond Cancer?
No.
No.
I just knew of Above and Beyond Cancer because one of the board members is the senior vice president at ITA Group. And so
who's on the board for Above and Beyond. So you hadn't been working out with Above and Beyond Cancer, but you knew of the journeys and you saw that. And so that's the first connection to Above and Beyond was, oh, wow, I would love to be on this journey. And so...
and I thought I needed something to work toward because I was still being really cautious. And I knew if I had a goal, like even throughout the training with Above and Beyond, I was like, even if I don't make it to the trip, like this is still helping me recover.
Yes, a big, audacious, hairy goal.
Yes, but that's just how I'm motivated. Like I have to have an end goal, and not having that, I felt like mentally was harder for me because I was just like, well, what am I going to be able to do? Am I going to be able to be active? And so just having a trainer like Mary do the training program and kind of push me more, like further than what I was doing myself, was super helpful.
So you wrote the application, and then do you remember getting the call?
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember getting the call, and it was from Mary Van Hukelum, the programming director of Above and Beyond. And she called to let me know that I had been accepted, and I was silent and just started crying. And I think I even said to her, I'm like, I put this in the application, but I can only walk around the block, right? Like, I can't walk very far.
I'm missing 2/3 of a log, and I can't walk very far, and you want me on the mountain climbing team.
Yeah. And she was like,
Are you guys crazy?
Yeah. So she told me all about the process of like the pre-assessment, and then, she customizes kind of the training for each person on what each person is kind of capable at that point in time and where they need to get to be able to go on the journey. But through it all, she knew from the very first phone call that I was going on this trip. I did not know that, but she knew it, and she made sure I was able to get there.
Okay. So talk a little bit about the training.
Yeah, so the training was every Monday at the downtown Y. She had different like interval and strength training for us. And then we'd also meet on the weekends too to do stair climbing. So at various buildings downtown or even on the road. I know we were like south of Ingersoll one day.
Some hills and stairs. We don't have super high, steep mountains.
No, so you have to work with building stairs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And was there a time during the training where you felt really confident?
I think it was just like the slow progression of confidence through it all. We started training in early January, and I feel like I know I gained, like, it was kind of up and down, right? Like, I'd feel good and confident that I was going through this program, and then I'd have something like, it felt like I was taking 2 steps back, where it was really hard to still go up the stairs, or like the first training that we had in a building downtown, I went into it with pretty kind of go-getter attitude, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go all the way to the top with my backpack, and this is going to be great. And I couldn't do that at the time, and so that it was kind of those moments where it was like I felt like I was gaining confidence, and then something like that would push me back. But I feel like by the time March hit, I was like, I'm going on this trip. I better start buying some things.
And I think we got on the airplane on about April 7th of 2025 and flew all the way to southern Chile.
Yep.
And then what did you think when, we got to the park and saw the mountains?
I was just like in awe for a number of reasons. In awe of the beauty of the land and finally making it to a place I'd always wanted to visit, but then also in awe of our entire group of being there, like to be surrounded by fellow survivors and caregivers who have gone through these traumatic experiences, and knowing we've all been through a lot and we still made it to this moment. Like, how inspiring is that to be surrounded by those people?
And I'm thinking back on it that the first day was one of our toughest.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely was. Hiking up to the towers.
In terms of the steepness of their terrain and the distance that day. So,
and I will say even that day I didn't have full confidence because I knew it was going to be the hardest day. And so there was a point where we made it, we had that break. And then after that was like hiking up the like boulders. There was like some bouldering kind of to make it up to the top of the towers. And even then I was like, well, I'm going to try it and see how far I can get. Hopefully I make it to the top, but like, it's okay if I don't. Like, I just kept trying to kind of temper my expectations. And then making it to the top, I just started bawling.
Yeah.
I remember you gave me a big hug, and I was just like a slobbery mess.
That was very emotional.
Yeah.
And not just for you, for everyone,
Yeah.
because by that point we all knew everyone's story, and everyone knew your story, and the fact that you were doing this with 2/3 of your right lung gone, and that this was a real challenge, and to see you all the way up at the towers, it was emotional for all of us.
Yeah, it was emotional for a lot of people. It was for their own stories too, and the stories they were bringing with them of maybe loved ones too, and being able to make it to that moment. So it was emotional for everyone, and the support that you get from each other on that trip too. Like, I don't know how many times I said this, that everyone else believed in me, even though I didn't believe in myself. And like, that's truly what got me through that, because everyone's so supportive and encouraging.
Did the challenge of the first day give you confidence for the next 5 days?
Yeah. I felt like, okay,
I
got through
I
the
got
hardest
this.
day. I can do it. And then the third day, it was really windy, if you remember that. And I forgot to use my inhaler that morning.
Oh.
And that day was really hard too. I had like my gator, and so I had that over here, but like the first couple miles were so windy and it was wide open. And so then again, it was kind of like that 2 steps back where I was like, okay, like I thought I was through the hardest part, and now here's another challenge. But then we made it to the first, what were the refugios? We made it to the first refugio. I got my inhaler out, and then I was good the rest
Okay.
of the time.
When you look back on that trip, what are some of the ways in which you feel, we call it a transformational journey, because we see time and time again people are transformed by the journey. What transformations did you experience?
Well, I experienced a physical transformation, right? Like being able to prove to myself that my body physically can hike and be outdoors and do all the things that I love. But the biggest transformation was mentally and emotionally. I just really didn't have a lot of faith in myself to be able to do it. And so to get to the end of that, I then felt like I could do anything. I haven't tried hiking at high altitudes yet, so I don't know about that, but I'm going to try. But it felt like that was the like total transformation, was like, yes, you've been through a hard thing. You suffered, as you like to say, but you make it through that and in a better place.
Right. And for those who don't know, Patagonia, southern Chile, the mountains begin very near sea level. So although you're steep and you ascend a long ways up, because you start at basically sea level, you're not at super high altitudes. And the higher you go, the less oxygen there is. So we had the challenge of long hikes and steep hikes and lots of ascending, but not at super high altitude.
Yeah.
So you are what we would call a young adult with cancer. What do you think are some of the challenges that young adults experience going through a cancer journey that are maybe different than many of the people you met on the journey that are over 50 or over 60, different challenges that individuals have depending on where they are in their life journey?
Yeah. I think as a young adult with a cancer diagnosis, you have so much more of your life ahead of you too. And so like my initial reaction was, am I done doing, like, have I done all that I could with hiking and biking and kayaking and all those things? Like, okay, at 33, I'm just done doing all of that. Whereas I imagine if you're in your 50s or 60s, you're like, okay, well, I've been able to do
Yeah.
a lot.
I've had all
it's
those
still,
memories
I'm
and
not
I've-
like trying to diminish that at all because it's still, you still have a lot of your life left too in 50s and 60s. But that's what was really a challenge for me as a young adult, is knowing like, what is my life going to look like now? And then also, what will it look like as I age? Like, do I have a lower age expectancy now? Like, am I going to get pneumonia more? Or like, if I get a respiratory infection as I get older, like, do those just impact me differently now with 2/3 of my lung removed? That's more specific to me, I guess, than your young adult question. But I just think you ponder a little more about like the future, maybe.
Yes, because at 33, you hope there's decades, and what's the consequences of having 2/3 of a lung removed to where I'm going? Hopefully, this trip and the training and the physical exertion gave you confidence that we've got a bright future.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about, as you know, we live in Iowa where the incidence of cancer is quite high, and certainly this is a form of lung cancer, not the traditional aggressive type that we associate with cigarette smoking. I assume that you are a non-smoker, yeah? So did you delve into, as we all hear more and more about cancer in Iowa, some of the causes of cancer? And do you think about that? And if you do think about it, what do you think about?
I think about it a lot because there's no known cause for what causes carcinoid tumors in the lung, which is really hard to grapple with. That's just such a gray area. I'm like, I want like a black and white response, right? Like, this is what I did, or this is what caused it in my life, and now I know how to fix it and never have it happen again. So like, if you smoke, like smoking's not a cause of it, even though I was a non-smoker. Radon, as far as I know, doesn't cause carcinoid tumors. They're not like genetic or environmental. So it's hard to know.
Yeah. Did you test your home for radon?
I'm looking at my fiance. Yeah, they did when they built it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. It is one where we don't have, but certainly radon is the number one cause of lung cancer in non-smokers. But you're right, it's traditionally not with carcinoid. But from what we know with radon, a radioactive gas, it could be associated, but it's just not a very common tumor. And I was just curious, as you hear about the other causes, whether that prompted you to check your water or check your radon level, or think about secondhand.
Radon, but obviously there's been a lot recently too about like forever chemicals and water quality and potential connections with agriculture, and so that I've been really reading a lot about that because I'm like, well, maybe that's my answer. And I feel like I'm just always going to be searching for.
Yeah, it's in any one individual. You don't ever know the cause, and we just kind of know associations. And how often during a day do you think about your cancer diagnosis or your surgery?
More frequently than what I realized, probably. Because there's still impact, like in my incision site, I love doing yoga, and there's still like poses I can't do. Like I can't turn a certain way, or it causes like muscle spasms or pain in my site. And so I, do a yoga class a couple times a week. So I think about it then, or, even if I stretch a funny way, just putting groceries away or something, like you just think about it in those instances more often than probably what I realize.
So it's really more the physical changes as a result of surgery that remind you of it, not so much the psychological.
Yeah, not as much that, but then of course, like there's certain milestones, right? Like today.
Today is an anniversary.
Yes. Yeah.
Second anniversary of when you got the diagnosis.
Yeah, and then the surgery anniversary, or like when I first got pneumonia, we'll be like, oh, on this day, 2 years ago, this is what was happening. And so you just always kind of have that too, those different milestones.
I hope your phone isn't prompting you with these anniversaries, showing you a picture of yourself
No.
in the hospital.
It does on the on my photos. Like I have some photos from the hospital. It does do that, and I'm like, thank you for this reminder. But it is kind of nice too. Like my scar is healed. It's starting to heal really well, and so even just seeing that, every time I look in the mirror, I can see it, and it's getting very faint down here. It still is longer to go, like higher up, but like that's a fun reminder too of like I have come a long way.
Yes, and so obviously a happy ending considering, a diagnosis of lung cancer, and hopefully those reminders remind you of how blessed you are to be cancer-free. And
Yeah.
do you still are you still engaged with doing things with Above and Beyond Cancer?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yes.
I just helped. I was on the events committee with Above and Beyond Cancer's first ever survivorship conference back in June. So that was fun.
Yes, you did a great job. Thank you. We had it at your conference center at your place of work, and it was so fun to work with you on that.
Yeah.
So as I was starting to say, engaged with Above and Beyond Cancer, you're also still engaged to be married
I am
in
engaged
August.
to be married,
Yes.
yeah, in a few
and
short
Ryan
weeks.
is here. Your
Yeah.
fiance is here, and you're going to come to spin class
Yep.
when we're done. So would you say it sounds like you've always had an appreciation for physical activity and being outdoors, and hopefully this renews your sense of joy about doing those things.
Yes, it definitely does. Yeah. And Above and Beyond Cancer is a huge part of that.
Yeah. Well, we're going to open up to questions. So if you are watching us live streaming right now, you can ask Becca a question. Just put it in the comment section of the software you're using, but we're going to let our live studio audience get first shot. Poon, you get first question.
This question is more for Dr. Deming. With the type of cancer Becca had, is that something that would spread to lymph nodes?
It could, and I'm sure that Becca's surgeon would have removed some lymph nodes, and that would have been part of the pathology report, to, whether there was any cancer cells in the lymph nodes.
Yeah, there's the two types of carcinoid tumors. A typical carcinoid tumor, which is what I had, and then an atypical carcinoid tumor. And so I feel very grateful that I had a typical carcinoid tumor because those are slow growing and it can take over 9 years for it to metastasize. And so I at least had mine for 5 or so years since I first had that crackly noise, but had found it fairly early.
Right. When you started talking about you were having symptoms, back in 2019, and then clearly the location of it would occasionally block your airway and cause those noises. So
Yeah. Immediately after surgery, I was talking about the inhale, and I was like, oh my gosh, the noise is gone. Like, that's what it was this whole time.
Next question. Yes, Kevin.
Yes, I was very impressed by all those dates you're throwing out with the biopsy and the results coming back. Do you do that with all aspects of your life, or you just want to remember this specific journey so you can relive it again? I don't know.
I had my notes here.
I might be able to tell you when I was first diagnosed if I think about it, but other than that, I don't know.
I am really good with birthdays, though, so I do feel like I'm pretty good at dates. My friends always make fun of me for that, so I don't know.
Yes, Fred.
Becca, very inspiring to hear you talk about your journey and all of that. Very recently, I saw you on TV with was that PBS?
Yes.
Did a story on cancer in Iowa, and I wondered how you'd gotten contacted about that. That was a good story. I mean, that was really interesting. I really enjoyed hearing you talk about it there.
Yeah,
too.
that was a national PBS NewsHour was doing a story on cancer in Iowa, and yes, you did a great job. How was it? So, as a journalist, and as somebody who wanted to be a broadcast journalist, were you also kind of paying attention to the sort of behind the scenes, what was happening in the process of making this news story?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. They came into our house, so that was kind of wild to watch them move things around and record it in our house. But I had told them, I was like, I understand how this goes. So if anything I say doesn't make it into the story, that's fine. And they're like, you really are a journalist. They're like, normally we interview people and they're like, is that going to be in? Is that going to be in? So it was kind of fun to see it from that perspective, but they did a fantastic job.
Yes. You did a fantastic job, and they did feature quite a bit. It was a fairly long segment for a news hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just an interesting side note, when we first met, when you were training, and we had that connection, my sister-in-law's from Sibley.
Yes.
Well, now she's dealing with cancer, and they had contacted her about that story. I don't think they used
Really?
anything they talked to her about, but I thought that was kind of an interesting coincidence.
That is, and
too.
I told them cancer is pretty rampant in my hometown, which I've always thought is very interesting. Like, all of my close friends still from grade school, their parent, uncle, sibling, nephew, niece, someone has had cancer. And it is just, it's kind of crazy. I knew of someone having cancer from before I was even 10 years old. There's just a lot of it in Sibley. Someone should look into.
Mm-hmm. Well, you happen to know the person who's the head of the Iowa Cancer Registry, and Dr. Mary Charlton, who was also on the trip with us in Patagonia.
And featured on the news story,
on the news story as well. But they will do cluster analysis. So a cluster is when one feels that there's just a lot more than average number of people in a certain geography, and you can actually report that to the Cancer Registry, and they'll do a deeper dive into seeing, is there really a number of people that is above average, and if so, do a deeper dive into what the cause might be.
Yeah, that would be interesting. We had a lot of teachers that had cancer all around the same time too, and so you kind of wonder if there's, I don't know, I shouldn't get into conspiracy or speculation. You just wonder about it.
Yeah, radon in the same buildings that people are working in or something like that. Yes, George.
Mary's watching on YouTube tonight and wants to know pain management. When you came home from the hospital, did they give you pain pills? Did they work? How did you do it?
Yeah, they gave me pain pills. They definitely worked. I felt like we had a pharmacy on our kitchen table. That my mom stayed with us for a while, so my mom and Ryan, had everything documented on when I needed to take what and what it was for. So I was on pain meds for really until I went back to work, I feel like. And then after that, it was just ibuprofen, Tylenol, and then physical therapy really helped with just the range of motion, and then that also helped with the pain too.
And I had a question about being diagnosed at such a young age. One of the bad things about that, I would think, is the lack of community. I mean, if you, for instance, with lung cancer, you could probably fill a small auditorium with old people that have lung cancer, but what about people your age? And then secondly, what about the prognosis? You mentioned that, about wondering what the future holds. Is there much of a precedent? Can doctors look and say, well, yeah, there's a lot of people your age that have had lung cancer, and here's what's happened?
Yeah, so the first part of your question about community, young adult survivors, I did feel really alone in the diagnosis because a carcinoid tumor isn't super common, especially not for someone my age. The doctors had told me at the time, the average age that they normally do surgery on for carcinoid tumor is mid-60s, and they don't see too many mid-30-year-olds. That being said, where my primary care physician is, they told me at the same time there were 2 other 33-year-olds who had carcinoid tumors in their right airway at the exact same time I did, which I think is very strange. But so even though I didn't know them, I was like, okay, so there are other people, that are also going through this. And then I did have a couple other people reach out to me. I'd made a post on social media, and I had a couple people I hadn't talked to in a long time from my hometown who had reached out and then shared their cancer journey. And so there was some community built there too. I think once you share your story, that's when others kind of reach out to and say, hey, I've been through that too. And you kind of trauma bond a little bit, but it's nice to have that camaraderie. And I kind of answered the second part of your question too about it's not very common for people my age to get this diagnosis. And so I do feel like that was kind of a challenge for preparing me for what the surgery would be like and what recovery would be like, because they were more used to having patients in their mid 60s and like kind of what that looked like, and not as used to someone my age. But when I went back for a CT scan, it was 2 weeks before we went to Patagonia. And I said, oh, by the way, I'm going to go hike 50 miles in 2 weeks in Patagonia. And they were like, what? So I kind of updated them every time, like how active I'm still being, so that hopefully that they can kind of learn from that too and kind of watch what that recovery is like for a young adult survivor.
Specific activities or exercises you're doing to expand your capacity, your lung capacity, since it's diminished with the removal?
That's a great question.
Do you notice a difference?
I don't do any like specific breathing exercises for that. But with the CT scans, the rest of my lung has filled the space. It doesn't like grow back, and I won't have the same capacity that I had previously. But it's filled kind of like the cavity that removing those two lobes has left. But I don't do any like specific breathing exercises. Maybe I should. It's a good question. Otherwise, I just do yoga a lot to like try and with a range of motion still.
Any other questions? Here we go. Gary.
Yeah, when I walked into the room and looked at you, I go, gosh, she doesn't look like she's ever had any cancer. But it's just amazing that you have really progressed the way that you have, and I think that's really a tremendous thing. And I was looking at your music symbol on your heel there, and I go, you still play saxophone?
Well, thank you for a compliment. No, I don't play saxophone. I still have it, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, but just to clarify, you don't. It's not like you're avoiding the saxophone because you don't think you have enough wind, is it?
No, but
Okay.
now that thought is in my
You should.
mind.
I think you should get the saxophone out. And,
I
yeah.
haven't played it because I haven't bought reeds in 10
Oh,
years.
okay,
but,
okay,
yeah.
okay. I think you should. Yeah.
Okay. We'll think about it.
Okay, Gary.
And
another
I
question.
think it's interesting is that I do have a grandson that has a partial lung. And so he does not have the capacity, but it doesn't seem to affect him in any way. Since this was one thing that he had since birth. And for you going to Patagonia, I can see that perhaps, that this will become normal to you, and that your exact limits as to how far you can go, and before you can you can say stop. It says I need to take that break or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like I'm still kind of learning what those limits are. And it kind of depends too, like if I'm being active outdoors and it's super windy out, I notice that I get more chest pain. And I don't know if that's because of asthma or because of the lung surgery or both. It might be a little bit of both. And so then I notice like, oh, well, I can't go quite as far because it's really windy. I have this pain now. And so I'm like still kind of learning what that is too. But I do feel like it's just become normal. And it's not until those moments that I'm like, oh yeah, I only have a third of my right lung.
Hoon, last question.
Yes. Becca, can you tell us a few of the Above and Beyond Cancer young adult programs that you do? And this is for the audience listening or watching this program today or tomorrow, that they can see if they've gone through a cancer treatment, what programs they can do.
Yeah. I love the healing with art programs. I think those have always been really cool. And then I know there's like a young adult survivor book club, I believe. There's always different activities going on. So I would just check out Above and Beyond Cancer's event calendar to look at
Yeah.
those.
So,
and
young adults-
subscribe to the newsletter too, because that's how I always
Thank
find out
you.
about the
Yeah.
events.
So the young adults can do any of the activities, but we have some activities that we just reserve for the young adults to help promote that camaraderie and social with because the issues are different. So yes, a lot of the young adult activities are creative, physical activity, but with a lot of camaraderie. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for
Thanks for
telling your
having me.
story, for having the courage and confidence to go on the Above and Beyond Cancer journey, and also for sharing your story, not just for, fame, and certainly not for fortune, but to make other people aware of cancer and that it can happen in young adults, and also being such an inspiration about how even after going through the treatment you did and losing 2/3 of your lung, you can still, reach above and beyond what you ever thought you could do.
Yes.
So
Well,
thank
thank you
you.
for having me.
Thank you. If you know someone that would benefit by watching this interview again, you're in luck. It will be available on demand beginning tomorrow at the Above and Beyond Cancer YouTube channel and also the Mercy Cancer Center website. I hope you'll join us again next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.